The Diary of the CEO by Stephen Bartlett is actually one of the books that I've read and I felt impactful life, that I actually felt like applying all the laws about it, into my life. It's just all about giving the 33 laws of business and life, that's so impactful to life. Everyone that has read this book, I think, has made a special testimony or has a special attachment to this book. Of all things, it has intriguing stories that you can apply to all aspects of life and business to grow. You can apply to your health and finances, and that's the health and finance niche. How I landed on this book, actually, I'm not so aware. I don't know, but I just found myself, getting interested into the book. I don't actually remember how I got to know about this book, but I think it would have been still over YouTube. Maybe I was checking something, because this is actually my niche of interest, health and finance, and probably still Steven's niche of interest. Only that mine is quite, mainly specific to help you regulate your health care expenses, medical expenses, and probably understand billing, medical billing, and everything that's related to that. So as maybe you're not ruined in one or the other, spending lots and lots of money onto healthcare finances. So you could be asking yourself, who is this guy? Who are you to tell me about healthcare finances? How to cut my medical expenses and what, and who are you to even, come up to tell me about, the Diary of CEO book? I'm a Yaledi, I'm a medical student, and I'm in my final year. I've developed so much interest into, healthcare finances and, how to manage it and what. I have an intriguing story that actually, it was a burdening story at first, but I found life into it and maybe helping out a number of people that could be having a similar challenge for that. I have a story of my grandfather who happened to, be diagnosed with prostate cancer stage 4. I don't know how it had progressed to that point, because at first I hadn't joined medical school then, but I could just see now, since that now I went to medical school and now try to understand how things were flowing. At first he had like a benign condition, and all the symptoms that were showing something that's not so severe. So some good management would have done about it, and probably would have been better, by that. It was 87 by then. That would have been not maybe a major impact. The major impact was, how much they spent later before realizing that maybe, this one, nothing can be actually done about it. Let's probably take him back home to die from there. It was a later decision. Actually, they made it, let me say, late enough when everything was distorted. That spent over 60% of all the assets that my grandfather had made, into healthcare expenses, and to the medical expenses that were needed, everything that was actually needed at the time. That the family was disintegrated, everything, everyone was at part. They made into 3 groups: the opposers, those that were neutral, and the proposers for all that thing. But the whole thing wasn't really fun. It was a hard moment, and it ruined, let me say, my family's net worth, my family's reputation, and everything that was actually associated to it. And I picked out these lessons probably, maybe, I was watching somewhere, because then I was around 16 years old, 19. I was watching at a distance, and I was seeing how everything was flowing, though you couldn't intervene, when the elders are doing that thing. It was really painful for me, because my grandfather was actually my best friend. I see the person whom I could freely associate with and maybe share with everything that I needed. But for this, I saw he died, and an unhappy man. He was in a state like himself, regrets, constant regrets of everything that was doing and everything. So this pushed me further to at least maybe focus more onto this topic, that I can help out many other people, many other families, people that may go through a similar challenge, and to that. So for this particular video, I picked out one particular law that maybe anyone could apply. You would have read this book and maybe checked out all the laws, but probably you would have not much more focused onto this particular law. And this law is, that your health is your first foundation. It's actually on the very first page after this one. It's the very first page. So maybe you would have skipped it and maybe taken it for granted, but actually it's so essential that the decisions that you make for your body and everything that you do for your, how much you take your health is actually so fundamental and determines probably, let me say, 70% of your life. Not only 70%, it may even determine 90% of your life, because once you're healthy in your body, physically and maybe mentally and probably spiritually, you can be of greater use and of greater advantage than you can even imagine. Somehow you can be more productive, than any other person that's not healthy. Though when they're so intelligent, or they have the resources, or they have the what, for you the only resource and full resource that you have is the body and what. So for this particular story, in this book, Stephen had written and given an example. It's actually the law 9. You get the law 9 of this book, and they were giving an example, giving that what you have to give first priority. I read this book recently when I had I recapped this book because I've been reading it, law, even other law. It's one of those books that I just enjoy repeating daily to maybe help me out, solve some immediate needs that I may need at that particular point. The lessons that are into it, I really prefer them, applying them one by one at all points. So had recently, maybe I had shown you around here, I had an abscess. It was a pre-auricular sinus infection. It has just gotten infected and it was blocked, and with time I was taking longer to make a decision of what actually need to do, and it developed into an abscess. This one, it was because I had taken long, I wasn't putting it as first priority, and what things became worse. It was became painful. It was even causing headaches, and with this, the sinus actually connects deep to the brain, cranium inside. So if the longer you delay, the more complications get. So it was really becoming more complicated, and I would have seen maybe if at all I had taken more longer, it would cause me maybe issues. Probably I wouldn't be here recording this video, but I was lucky that I still something came into my senses, and I had to check out this law, and so I had to put my health as my first foundation, and maybe prioritize it, put it first from all the other things. There was an example of Warren Buffett, who is the leading investor currently, that he was giving to some students, giving them, maybe was giving the examples that if at all he was being given a car, and that's the final car that he has, and no other car that will be purchasing, maybe that's how would you like how he would take care of this vehicle, or how he would take care of this car, and how much value he could attach to it, just in case maybe he was aware that this is the only car that he was supposed to drive, depending on how much affection he had for cars and what, and realized that he would have been so keen, and maybe I would have handled it with intensive care, so as doesn't get any wreckage, it's never involved in any form of accidents, or even it's not cracked or scratched anywhere, you get. So this one, it was just an example, like as a body, when you have your body, and how much, because we have one life and we have one body, so how much you take care of it. Let me give an example. Maybe you're prone, some things will cause you diabetes, and when you have you have some form of stage diabetes and what uncontrolled diabetes, you have the complications that you will have. Maybe you have a diabetic foot and it's progressing into a gangrene and something like that. So, and in the end, they will need to cut off the limb, amputate it. And so you're there, think of yourself now, you're seeing, the signs, all the things that will come up when you take too much sugars, you're not exercising, you become obese, and all these things. The end results would be either one of your limb goes, or you're onto drugs that you have to take on a daily. Of course, drugs are not so safe, because your liver still will be at an effect and all those things. So there's nothing good actually you taking drugs and maybe being diabetic, being hypertensive, and all these things. So having understood that, maybe you just do simple, do all the things that can actually save you, exercises, maybe screenings, checkups, and what. So as you limit onto the further complications and the after effects of your health. This was actually a difference between my grandfather's story and what he just lacked the knowledge of what they actually needed, because if at all that managed his condition as a benign phase or benign level when it was still early, might be that remove the prostate and what, all these things wouldn't have appeared or wouldn't have happened. I'm not saying that maybe he wasn't going to die or what, he would have died, but maybe still the family would remain solid as a whole. Maybe all his finances were not going to be ruined. Maybe let me say just a few things were going away, let me say maybe 10%, and the 90% remains, but because of that everything just went away. Alright, let me hope you have found some value in this video. Check out these other videos and see you